Welcome back to yet another episode of Dogs on the Couch. All right, where everybody's allowed to have an opinion, okay? Does not matter if you played the game, if you watched it, you're allowed to have an opinion, okay? It's for all your drunk uncles, dads, aunties, cousins, whomever, the couch sitters, all across the globe. You're allowed to have an opinion here on Dogs on the Couch. You dig? Now let's get into it. First things first. I had my first wrong prediction. Had the Browns beating the Bengals this past weekend, and unfortunately, that did not come to fruition. Now, with that being said, when I made my prediction, I was under the assumption that Deshaun Watson would be playing, the entirety of the game. And unfortunately, he went out with a ruptured Achilles late in the second quarter of the game. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to dive into that a little bit, pause, and talk about the future, what the future may look like for the Browns, considering that now they are in the position that all of the anti-Deshaun Watson people wanted to be in. Congratulations, guys. You're now on the clock. You know what I'm saying? You on the clock now, bruh. It is what it is, man. Y'all on the clock. Okay? Y'all wanted Watson up out of there. You got him up out of there. You cheered this man when he ruptured his Achilles. You know what I'm saying? And then when people got to calling y'all out for it, saying that was tasteless, you're like, oh, well, he had the accusations and the allegations and he did this and he did that. I don't really have a whole lot as far as an opinion, as far as that goes. Everybody's allowed to like a person or dislike a person based on whatever you want to go on. For me, and the way my compass works, the reason that I had kind of detached myself from the allegation feelings or whatever, what have you, is because he wasn't prosecuted. Out of all those women, like, nobody chose to prosecute him. They just took the money and they were cool with it after that. So for me, if the people who it happened to don't want to hold this man's feet to the fire and make him serve time, because that's what I honestly feel like, if you were violated or disrespected, that kind of thing, to the level or degree that we were led to believe, for me, there's no amount of money that you would be able to pay me in order for me to be okay with it. The only way that I would be okay with it, and probably still wouldn't be okay with it internally, is if that man is behind bars, serving time for, what he did or did not do. You know what I'm saying? So, again, being as though they weren't, prosecuting him and holding his feet to the fire and holding him accountable and putting that man behind bars so that way he does not have the opportunity to do this to any other woman going forward. Because in my opinion, I would think that that's what the women would want. If it's 20 plus of y'all, you would think that women would band together and say, no, forget the money, strong, independent, forget the money. This guy is a monster and we need to put him behind bars. We need to band together and put this man behind bars. But anyway, enough of that. Feel how you want to feel. It really makes me no difference. I'm not arguing for another man. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? I take all this stuff at face value and I just try to use logic when I'm assessing it. That's all. So anyway, let's get past that and let's get to the actual football. So, first starters. Let's roll with Kevin Stefanski being actually we're not going to start with that. We're going to start with Deshaun Watson looking the best that he's probably looked the entire time up until this point, at least to start off a game. Because he's had second halves before. I think it was in the Baltimore game last year, where he looked great. You know what I mean? But as far as like starting a game off and then continuing that, beyond just the very first drive, I believe he was doing that. This game had nice completion numbers, if you will. Wasn't like he was just tearing it up, but it was very efficient, and the offense was moving. The offense looked competent for a change. However, we were held back once again, like we always are, by our incompetent head coach / play caller. Because for starters, for whatever reason, in this particular game, Jameis Winston was demoted to the emergency quarterback, and our second-year player, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, was upgraded to the backup quarterback position. Now, mind you, every week prior to, Jameis Winston was the backup quarterback. In fact, we had specific third down packages admitted by Kevin Stefanski himself. I was listening to him on 92.3 The Fan when he was kind of explaining stuff that really has no explanation. And there were packages, short yardage packages, for Jameis Winston and whatnot. So, not only was he the backup quarterback up until this date, but we also had short packages for him. So anytime we get 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, we send that guy out there. Again, I don't agree with that, and I don't necessarily know why, because no other team in the NFL does that except us. But, hey, it is what it is. So for whatever reason, and then, again, I listened to 92.3 The Fan and kind of tried to get Kevin's explanation, for why DTR was the one who was upgraded this week, but it was a bunch of word salad, and he didn't really give a definitive answer as to why. It'd be different if you just flat out came out and said, well, he looked better this week in practice, so we felt like he's the guy we should go with. But again, if we just going with football 101, just regular football acumen, here you have a guy in Jameis Winston, seasoned veteran in the NFL. He may be a turnover machine, but the guy can throw the ball. He can move an offense. He can throw the ball. He can get you some touchdowns. It's just gonna come with some interceptions, but he can get you some touchdowns. And he's a great, locker room guy from what everybody talks about. He's basically the model backup quarterback. What you would want in a backup quarterback. That's him. So for whatever reason, head coach decides that this week in particular, our unproven second-year quarterback, who looked terrible last year when we put him in. Goodness. Now, we won the game that he started, but my goodness, there were times where the kid just looks like a deer in headlights. He has some speed to him. He's mobile. He's agile. But outside of that, I don't there's nothing to me that really just jumps off the screen like, oh wow, this guy is, you know what I mean? Like outside of his mobility and agility, he's very mobile and very agile. I give him that. Okay. So that's for starters. We switched up our backup quarterback role. Meanwhile, mind you, all of the fans been calling for Jameis Winston, not DTR. They've been calling for Jameis Winston, even going as far as to say Jameis Winston is the one who actually fits the Kevin Stefanski system the best. Okay, so everybody's, Jameis Winston, Jameis Winston, Jameis Winston. But for whatever reason, this week, Jameis Winston was bumped down to the emergency quarterback, which means the only way he could enter the game is if all of the quarterbacks before him were injured. It's the only way he could enter the game. So the place that you demoted him to, you couldn't even just, if, everybody playing bad, you couldn't just already say, you know what, no, I'm just going to go to Jameis. Because he was the emergency quarterback, which means everybody prior to had to be hurt in order for him to be allowed to come into the game. Crazy work. I don't understand why we would do this for the first time and we 6-7 weeks into the season. That's crazy work to me. Especially without a legit, real life, pinpoint explanation as to why we're doing this. I don't want to say the inevitable. That's the wrong word. The unexpected happened. Me and my brother, we call it the nobody touched you. Whenever you see a player go down, and grab the knee or grab the back, like the back of their heel with no contact, it's usually never a good thing. If they grab the knee, 9 times out of 10, torn meniscus. If they grab, the back of their heel, 9 times out of 10, torn or ruptured Achilles. With Deshaun Watson, you can see it. When they ran the replay, if you're watching, if you look at the back of his heel, you just see it explode in his sock. You see the Achilles explode. And then he immediately goes down, tries to get back up, and cannot. All the signs of a ruptured / torn Achilles. So, I knew that pretty much off rip. Even made a post about it on Facebook where I just typed up, I said torn Achilles, and they haven't even confirmed yet. But just watching it, I already knew what it was. Already knew. So the non-supporters got what they wanted. Well, somewhat. Because when he goes down after he's been looking great, he's been looking about as good as he's looked. That's what you wanted him to look like. And messed around and gets hurt, But enter DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Now, from all of the non-supporters' mind frames, if we had to put any other quarterback in, it's going to look better than Deshaun Watson. Because Deshaun Watson is the worst quarterback ever. He's Jamarcus Russell. Nobody else will want him. He's not an NFL quarterback anymore. He's just terrible. He's a big garbage can, and he doesn't need to be in the NFL. So you can just pick any quarterback and put him in, and they'll be better than him. Sadly, that was not the case. DTR did have a couple good plays. As far as throws, there was really only one, extremely good throw that he had ended up making. No, you know what? I take that back. There were 2 really good throws that he made. One just so happened to end up being dropped by David Njoku. It was another pass dropped by Jerry Jeudy. And again, these were things that, I talked about when I was saying that, these things are not a quarterback's fault. Quarterback has nothing to do with the guy dropping a pass. That's all on the receiver. Quarterback can't make a guy catch the ball. Only thing you can do is put the ball on him. He's got to catch it after that. You know what I mean? So his biggest plays, one of them was a nice throw to David Njoku. But the other plays were really just read options where he ended up keeping the ball and showing off his mobility and his agility. Those were like the major plays that he had. But even with those, there was one where he should have just got out of bounds. And for whatever reason, like he's taking on defenders, the guy gets hit and flips up in the air. And it's like, dude, come on, young man. we've watched some people lose their careers by not getting down or going out of bounds. RG3 is the one that comes to mind immediately. Guy was a generational talent, man, and he just couldn't, for whatever reason, he didn't want to get down. He didn't want to run out of bounds. Like, he just wouldn't, he refused to avoid the contact for whatever reason, man. And so we get a situation where he does actually get us, down into the red zone. We end up scoring. Nick Chubb ended up scoring a touchdown on that one. But after that drive, when he gets back out there, he ends up throwing a couple picks. He ends up throwing a couple interceptions. And then on one of the interceptions he throws, he tries to make a tackle and he injures himself. This is how we get to Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston comes in and looks pretty decent, actually. He looks nice. He ended up throwing a jump ball to the back end of the end zone. David Njoku brings it in. Very nice catch. Able to get his feet down in bounds. Great catch. Great throw, great catch. So you have that. It's hard to give it a proper assessment because the feel of the game at that time was more like a garbage time feeling. It wasn't like but we still have a chance to win the game, even though after we scored that touchdown, it was a one-score game after that. But it still didn't have the feel of, we got a chance to win this thing because we had scored that touchdown. I think maybe a little over a minute, something like that, left to go in the game. So we got to get an onside kick and then try to get, it's one of those ordeals. Got to get the onside kick in order to even really have a chance. And we know that onside kick thing is, oh my goodness, the chances of that are absolutely crazy, especially when you're talking about the Browns. Like, come on, man. Like, it's hard enough for a competent team to get an onside kick, let alone the Browns with Stefanski. So you can kind of take away something good from Jameis Winston's performance, be it garbage time or mop-up duty. Regardless, you can take a positive out of that. However, here's the indictment that it brings on the head coach / play caller. Why didn't you have him as the backup quarterback to begin with? With what we saw in that limited assessment of both quarterbacks, Jameis Winston is clearly the more competent quarterback to put in and to go with to give your team the better chance to win out of those two. Dorian Thompson-Robinson and Jameis Winston. Winston was the clear-cut better option. So why on earth was he the emergency quarterback? Why? Like, why? Especially when he's been the backup all the way up until this game. He's been the backup. But for some odd reason, he was the emergency quarterback in this game. And he clearly looked, but out of the two, he clearly looked like the better quarterback, the better option. So that's crazy that Stefanski, you could be looking at this all week or whatever, all season, and somehow determine that this other kid who, I mean, bless his heart, he seemed to be overwhelmed after he threw that first interception. He was just erratic and all over the place after that. Just erratic and all over the place after that. Just wild. To where you questioning, like, okay, I don't know. I don't think he should be out there. I think he needs to put a little bit more work in before you put him out there. So that's for starters. Why on earth was Jameis Winston not the backup? Because if Winston had been the backup and he had been able to go in, and play the entire duration, remainder of the game, you might have been able to mess around and pull a win out of that thing, man. Because you had 2 turnovers before he was able to get in there, and get and get us down there and get us a touchdown. So if Winston comes in earlier, you may even still be able to pull out a win in this game, man. That's crazy. Not only that, the indictments that I've had on Stefanski all along reared their ugly heads yet again. A ton of penalties. I want to say around 10 penalties, maybe somewhere around there. And they range from a bunch of different things. It's not like it's just one specific thing. Like, oh, we can't stop holding. It's not. It's holding. It's offsides. It's a legal shift. It's ineligible man downfield. On one, we had intentional grounding and illegal touching on the same play, where DTR is getting pressure because the offensive line can't block. So he getting pressured and he don't break the pocket. He throws the ball, intentionally grounding it, and then Jedrick Wills goes and touches the ball like he's trying to catch it. So we got intentional grounding and illegal touching on the same play. The same play, like, so nobody went over this. Nobody went over this with the guys, with the team. Nobody told Jedrick Wills, like, hey, if he intentionally grounded, if it's intentional grounded, don't compound it with illegal touching. Like, just let it happen. It's intentional grounding. Just let it happen. So nobody, I guess, apparently went over that with him. So yeah, just a boatload of penalties. Just unforced errors, man. Again, if you ask me, that's an indictment on coaching, because these same things happened with 2 other quarterbacks in the rotation. So we couldn't blame Deshaun Watson. We can't blame him anymore. That's the only part that I like about this. I didn't necessarily want to see the guy get hurt or anything like that. So the only part that I actually like in all of this is number one. Well, no, it's just 2 things that I like. Number one, I thankfully I think Deshaun will get an exit, and I think he deserves that, man. I think he deserves to be able to go somewhere else and get a fresh start. Try to get a fair shake if he can. Try to create a situation where instead of everybody being against him, at least maybe he could go somewhere to a team where maybe the fans in that city get behind him, and then everybody else hates him, but maybe in that particular place, the fans will get behind him. Here, everybody was his enemy, except a few of the players in the locker room who spoke up for him. But outside of that, everybody was his enemy, and it's been that way for the entire time he was here. So, hopefully, because I don't think he's going to want to play here anymore. Because if you cheer me while I suffer like one of the biggest injuries that you could have, I don't want to play for you no more. I don't want to put my body on the line for your city or for your fans or for your franchise anymore, especially in my money guarantee. Because I said this before, he much better than me. I would have been quit. And all my money guaranteed too. You think I'm about to go out here, offensive line ain't blocking, I gotta get mollywopped upside my head every time I throw the ball, I gotta get up off the ground. Man, are you kidding me? I'd be like, yeah, man, my toenail hurt, I can't play. Run me my check though, because my money guaranteed. Yeah, they talking crazy about me, fans want to boo me. You know what? Hey, my wrist hurt. Run me my check though, because my money fully guaranteed. You know what I'm saying? And I stand on the sideline, and when all the fans is booing me, I stand on the sideline and do this. Yeah, yeah. Then I do this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know what I'm saying? 2 can play that game. But the other good part of it is your scapegoat is gone now. You can't skip over all this other mess and point to the quarterback. Oh, it's his fault. Can't blame him anymore. So, coaches, GM, spotlight's on you guys now. Yeah, the Deshaun Watson scapegoat is gone now. It's all up to you guys now. And from the start of it, doesn't look good at all. I'll I'll give an example. You traded Amari Cooper. Okay. Mind you, I went through it's a few other players that, Odell Beckham, we couldn't get it right with him. Baker Mayfield, we couldn't get it right with him. Kareem Hunt, we couldn't get it right with him. However, all these guys left and were successful. Two of those guys are still successful right now to this day in Baker Mayfield and Kareem Hunt. Still successful currently. They made it seem like Kareem Hunt was a meatball and he couldn't do anything. He's starting running back for the Kansas City Chiefs. And they using him like he's a bell cow back. It isn't just a short yardage situation over there with him. They using him like a prime time running back. They using him the same way they was using him when they first had him. That's how they using him. But somehow we couldn't do it. And he wanted to be here. He's from here. He's from Cleveland. He wanted to be here, but we couldn't use him somehow. Because we had Pierre Strong and Jerome Ford. Stop the mess. So, example, we get rid of Amari Cooper, who looked good over there in Buffalo, mind you. One of the touchdown he scored, I don't even think he knew the play. And Keon Coleman told him what route he was supposed to run. Ended up scoring a touchdown. But somehow we couldn't get Cooper. We couldn't get whatever. So we let go of Cooper. Jeudy is the one who you had signed in the offseason. Paid him a nice little piece of change. So bam, you would think Cooper gone, Jerry Jeudy, you elevated the wide receiver one. And since you elevated the wide receiver one, let's see what you got. Let's see what you got at wide receiver one. Let's get him some targets. Let's get him some throws. Let's see what he can do. Jerry Jeudy's first target of the game, not first catch, his first target, the first time they threw him the ball, was in the fourth quarter with about 3 minutes and 5 seconds left to go in the fourth quarter. That was his first target of the entire game. Now again, I never claimed to be a football genie, a football wizard, the guy who knows everything there is to know about football. I only know football 101. The rest of it, I'm a little bit here, a little bit there, you know what I mean? But football 101, oh, I know that. Yeah, the basics, oh yeah, I know that. And the basics for me, if I just got rid of my former, what was my wide receiver one, because he was dropping the ball and he had a bad attitude and all this other garbage. And I promote my other guy that I just signed this offseason, gave him a nice piece of change to come here too. In my mind, I'm like, oh, first quarter, he going to have 5 targets off the rip. Just for me to see what I got with my new wide receiver one. Just for me to be able to see what I can do with you. See what you got. That man didn't get a target until 3 minutes and about 5 seconds left to go in the fourth quarter. That is absolutely insane. It's inexcusable. That's inexcusable. That's ridiculous. How do you do something like that? As the head coach or the play caller? Because if I'm just the head coach and I'm not the play caller, I'm finna go to my play caller like, hey, why we ain't throwing the ball to Jeudy? Why we ain't throwing the ball to him? And if I am the play caller, the head coach would probably have to come to me like, hey, man, we got other people besides Jerry Jeudy, right? You ain't got to throw the ball to him. You ain't got to call the plays for him every time. Like, you can't throw it to somebody else. I'm just saying just to prove a point. Like, oh, okay, my bad. PS5 going crazy. I didn't know what that was. Pause. PS5 going crazy. PS5 is off the chain. I got the little fan thing to cool it down. So, and I forgot I had put it on rest mode instead of just turning it all the way off. So, like, what is that? Okay. Anyway, so yeah, man, you got a chance to really see what you got in your new wide receiver one, and we don't throw him the ball, similar to Odell Beckham when we had him. It's like we get the guy, we make it seem like he's gonna be a guy who's showcased in this offense, and then each Sunday we trot him out there and don't throw him the ball. It's crazy. You know what I mean? And then uh, he like I said earlier, he did end up getting a couple more balls after that one at 305 in the fourth. One of them he ended up dropping though, because again, that's what we deal with, drops from the receivers, as well as penalties. And last but not least, yet again, we had a missed extra point as well as a missed field goal. So how I had said previously, kicking needed to be addressed because that has nothing to do with the quarterback. It reared its ugly head yet again. So, in closing, the takeaways from this game, um, all of the non-supporters, all of the Watson non-supporters, you got what you wanted. However, the clock's ticking. And I don't think it's looking too good. That's just my personal opinion. Because no matter what quarterback you had in there, you still had the same issues as a team. Special teams was trash. You got Deontay Foreman returning kicks, and he don't even know how to do it. Squandered a kick return or punt return, let the ball bouncing around our 10, 7-yard line, something like that. Deontay Foreman, a short yardage running back, is the guy that's returning kicks and punts. You gotta be kidding me. Again, football 101. I know that a short yardage back, I wouldn't put Frank Gore as my kick or punt return. That's great. That's football 101. You don't have to be a guru. You don't got to be Andy Reid to know that Frank Gore shouldn't be back there returning kicks or punts. So again, man, in closing, the problems, in my opinion, will continue to exist because you got Jedrick Wills, who can't block to save his life. And if he does block, he's offsides, or holding. That goes for a couple of the other linemen as well. I think Ethan Posick had a penalty or two. It's ridiculous at times. So we'll see. We'll see how things pan out this upcoming week. We'll also see who on earth they choose to be the starting quarterback this week. We have no idea who the starter will be. You never really know. You don't know who's starting. You don't know who's returning kicks, but who knows? You never know. Okay. But one thing I'm betting on to be consistent, especially now that we don't I really don't think I could pick a game that we'd win. I have to look a little later in the season, see what cherry pick games we may have, or we may be able to win one or two due to injury or something, something along those lines. But in my opinion, we're going to still see garbage football, even with the new quarterbacks. And the reason that we'll continue to see garbage football is because Kevin Stefanski is still the head coach as well as the play caller. He needs to be gone, and so does Andrew Berry. We'll see how things shape up in this upcoming week. Dogs on the Couch, signing off.